more exclusive Naruto Lemon videos coming out on my Boosty. You can support me by subscribing. Link in description. Description: his life has always been connected with the forest. He was used to treading carefully, reading tracks and being a hunter. He wasn't the best, but he knew a lot, and now that's not enough. You cannot be one of many, only the best are worthy of life. Will he be able to, Nawaki Senju, become one? Not just to be one of many, but first among equals? The choice is his, but only time will tell how correct his path was. Chapters 8 to 11. Chapter 8. Curiosity. Academy, there is so much in this word. In fact, this is more of a school with a focus on physical education. Deadly, true, but it started later, somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd grade. Before that there was normal training. However, I still have a year to go, so I'm here more as a support. To be completely honest, I simply ran away from the block and went to look at Tsunade's class. I'm really interested in what kind of Jiraiya she is constantly talking about. Well, as always, it flashed a couple of times, but with such expression, she speaks about the others not so emotionally, rather in passing, as if about something small, not worth attention. But the Baka, Jiraiya, and the loser, Jiraiya, clearly stood out, if only because she gave him nicknames. Offensive, but revealing. For me. Should I see the possible husband of my only sister? And what are you doing here, Nawaki? Hearing Tobirama's voice sound right next to my ear, I reflexively swung the kunai away. Really committed to the business. After all, this was my first time going outside the neighborhood alone, so I should have been prepared for anything. In fact, I mainly used the kunai, like the army knife my grandfather had given me earlier. Well, the blow was more of a reflex that did not lead to anything good. My hand was easily blocked, but the inertia of the unfolding body no. I would have fallen ingloriously down, but I was caught by the scruff of the neck and hoisted back onto the branch. Tobirama-ji, can you tell me how you managed to be in several places at the same time? I looked sourly at Naidane, who has already said his speech. Hokage, and then turned to his full copy, which was standing nearby, casually leaning against the trunk. He had already hidden my kunai and had no intention of returning it. Well, it's okay, I have a couple more hidden, and I have a whole armory at home. It's a pity that it's still useless, it needs to grow a little more. This is a jutsu I invented. My gaze, thirsty for details, was met with indifference, although for a moment it seemed to me that mockery flashed in the red eyes. Don't even hope for it. This technique requires a developed SCH. Not every genin can master it, and the mass version is not available to all jounin. I squint. I said. No, it sounded quite harsh. While dissipating, the clone transfers all the accumulated information and fatigue. This is a big load on the brain and the whole body as a whole. I understand, for which I respected Tobirama. He not only forbade it, but also explained why. True, it didn't work well on Tsunade, but it appealed to me. Will I have access to technology when I'm ready? Yes, a short nod, my answer satisfied him. So why did you run away? I wanted to see Jiraiya. Tobirama simply raised his eyebrow, indicating in one motion that he wanted to know the details. The only student at the academy who received a nickname from Tsuna, I chuckle. Naturally, thanks to her character, it is not the most flattering. And how? There was no increase in interest in the other person's tone, but the fact that he did not stop the conversation spoke volumes. Shibutnoi, during this time he received from at least 3 girls and quarreled with 5 boys, but I turned my thoughtful gaze to the cheerfully speaking boy. From here it's difficult to see everything down to the smallest detail, and I don't use chakra, but even this is enough to notice small inconsistencies. But, all the times he intervened, a major conflict could have occurred. Children are too excited, I share my impressions. As a result of his actions, the fuse quickly disappeared. And he himself got off with slaps on the head rather than serious blows. Peacemaker means, the voice became a little more lively. I wouldn't say that. A short glance showed that these changes were not reflected on the face. Rather, he subtly senses the crowd and skillfully pretends to be. If he really were, He would hardly have made it into the class of the clan members, since he himself is an orphan. Coldly and with a bit of mockery. Well, yes. I reproduced a piece of information given by Mito-sama, and I am not at all ashamed of it. I still can't get it myself. They don't even let me leave the block alone. Today doesn't count. It's hard to even call it an escape, it's just that everyone on my way unanimously pretended that they didn't notice the darting air. Well, what can you do? I was much better at noticing hidden shinobi than acting secretly myself. In fact, I hid well, but the coordination of movements in a child's body was much worse than in adults. It got in the way. This is not arrogance, but facts. I plopped down on a branch. I listened to Tsu enough to draw conclusions. And these exams every year, when children's potential is determined and classes are shuffled, are not bad. A good incentive to study, but also an indicator of talent. At least for clanless orphans. Let's go to. I freeze, a heavy palm falls on my head, carelessly ruffling my hair. Very unusual, Tobirama rarely condescended to do this. Although he was far more attentive than anyone else. I want to jump from the tree, but I don't have time. They simply catch me by the scruff of the neck and move me around in space, rewarding me for greater persuasiveness with the feeling of my stomach jumping up my throat. Fortunately, my vestibular apparatus has always been good, so I returned to normal quickly, almost immediately after they released me and put me in. Sensei, who is this? In fact, the one I was put in front of asked my question. Stop. Sensei? This is Nawaki, Saru. Tobirama's voice even warmed up a little, and I was able to see the person who asked the question, as well as 4 others nearby. My grandfather moved me to something like training grounds, but not on clan territory. Although I look around the clearing, it's still early for the stars, but some landmarks can be noticed even with my height. For example, the rocks near the faces of the Hokage. Approximately estimate which direction I am in and at what degree the snowback is. Hashirama deviated from my usual angle and gloomily stated that I was still not far from the clan's territories, perhaps even on them. Just here, unknown space. Nice to meet you. I returned my gaze to the teenagers looking at me with interest, realizing that Tobirama decided to give me the opportunity to get to know everyone, since there were no further enumerations. You already know my name. The name of the one standing in front of me, albeit strange. My words caused quiet giggles. I also heard what should I call the others. I tried to smile one of the most radiant smiles that I borrowed from Hashirama. Naturally, I won't be able to dazzle everyone with the depth of my feelings, but with a dose of cuteness quite. Tested on Tsunade, this smile takes her to the astral plane. The main thing is to escape in time, otherwise the squeezing begins. But she forgets all her questions and grievances. Considering my frank reluctance to participate in most of her childhood activities, this is not out of place. So cute I was not mistaken. The only girl in the squad instantly broke into a smile and pulled her raking hands towards me. My name is Koharu. Nice to meet you. Your name suits you. Please accept this small gift as a sign of my joy at meeting you. I didn't want to be squeezed, so I decided to fuse a box of dango that was stuck for Tsunade and a small kanzashi with butterflies. Fortunately, I was already able to handle the simplest manipulations with chakra with a bang and had no problems with unsealing. But Tobirama's look eloquently said that he would remember the inappropriate use of seals on weights to me later. However, this did not interfere with handing over the offering and sideways moving away from the floating girl. Maybe she will at least forget about the fact that she wanted to pat my cheeks? Otherwise, this kind of attitude from women irritates me, but I can't lose my temper. I'm a child and for my age I'm very cute, especially for some reason everyone is happy with my seriousness, but I don't have such reactions. We can only hope that the problem will resolve itself with age. Look, no one comes to Tobirama and squeezes his cheeks. Well, on the other hand, he only had brothers and no sisters. It's a pity that I wasn't ready to meet such a charming kunoichi, then I would have. Nawaki, Tobirama sighed tiredly. Stop the farce, Koharu is my student and will not squeeze you. Of course it won't. Was it in vain that I occupied her hands? I shrug, ceasing to show good manners. Now it won't work anymore. My words caused outright amusement among the boys, who watched my maneuvers with fascination. However, it is worth giving them their due. They quickly calmed down, only made a couple of good-natured jokes, but did not press further. They clearly liked watching me justify myself to the girl, saying that there was not a drop of lies in my words and that the gift was made from the bottom of my heart. Well, I wasn't offended by them. I myself don't like to stand between a woman and her rightful prey. It's a pity that this time the role of prey was assigned to me. Quiet. Tobirama didn't even raise his voice, but they all stood at attention. Nawaki, meet the others. Kagami, Hamira, Danzo. Briefly, without a last name, he listed the remaining students of Nidame. Those, as soon as their name was heard, raised their hand. You will have to spend the next half hour with them. Students, don't take your eyes off him. I don't have time to ask the question. Tobirama fades away in a cloud of smoke, with the characteristic sound of a bursting balloon. It's funny. But this does not solve a small problem, because I will have to spend time in the company of completely unfamiliar guys of about 18 years old. Remembering myself at that age, I feel sad. It's unlikely that they are too different and would be inflamed with the desire to mess around with a teenager, which is a pity. I would like to talk to someone else besides Tsunade and Shikaden. The children from the group where I am taught to be a shinobi do not count. Our communication is still one-sided and I quickly get bored. What did you do wrong that Tobirama-ji decided to push me onto you? And he seemed so cute, Koharu drawls mockingly, looking at me with investigative interest. In response, I shrugged my shoulders vaguely, preparing for a long time in the company of unfamiliar guys. No, I'm not shy and I'll chat with them with great pleasure. I just have to figure out how to take advantage of it. I can't read the scrolls in front of them. I simply didn't take them with me. It's just boring to sit on the sidelines. Starting training, laziness, apparently, was passed on from Nara. To hope that they will share knowledge. I have already become comfortable here enough to understand the absurdity of such thoughts. It's just that no one will bother with me, or teach me. Did we interrupt your training? Only the deaf would not have heard the hope in my voice. For all of us, the best option is to analyze other people's styles and techniques. So I won't get in their way, and I'll learn something new myself. At the very least, I'll understand how insignificant my skills are in comparison with existing shinobi, which is also not bad. Let's continue training, and I'll sit in the shade? No, Nawaki-kun, the mood drops when I look at the smiling Kagami. The 5th point signals trouble and does not let me down. Commas began to swirl in the guy's eyes and I barely had time to twitch when I found myself in the middle of the forest. This guy landed on a branch next to me, not allowing me to get off the branch with a movement that had already set my teeth on edge. In other words, grabbing you by the scruff of the neck. Do not panic, I throw an unreadable glance at him. I haven't started to panic yet. I wouldn't have fallen without his help, but it's unnecessary to say, but to help me let go, no. It's a pity that a blow to a painful point is easily blocked by continuing to smile cheerfully. And this is so annoying. You are in my illusion. In reality, for others you are sleeping. Sorry, but it won't work out any other way. We need to train, but we can't let sensei down, and that's why you put me under genjutsu? I raised my eyebrow mockingly, trying to get out of the illusory bonds. Only the standard Tai did not work, as did the attempt to completely stop and restart the chakra current. There was not enough control, and I didn't know any other ways. I just hoped that they wouldn't harm me. We will train in reality, and you are here! The Uchiha smiled such a happy smile that I involuntarily remembered the advertisement about blendment. Apparently he got here too. I will teach you the basics of survival in the forest. Judging by the way his smile faded, the skepticism on my face was reflected too clearly. Don't worry, you'll find it interesting. No doubt, I nod resignedly. I wonder how much this self-taught guy can teach me? Considering that at one time I started going to the forest with my grandfather at the age of 5, if not earlier? Well, I know how to read tracks and disguise mine as a master, as well as survive in the forest. Still, he was going to become the huntsman's successor, and this is not easy. My grandfather taught me according to the old criteria, pre-war and wartime, when not only your life, but also that of others depended on secrecy and the ability to get food. It's difficult to say how much time I spent in this illusion, but I could easily understand that Kagami was able to surprise me. Or rather, the differences between this world and the one where I lived before had an impact. I somehow forgot that I was used to operating more in central Russia, but here I couldn't even understand what the forest was like. This same Hashirama could grow several hundred hectares of pure mutants in an hour, and at one time he apparently was not alone. I couldn't explain such diversity in any other way. However, I didn't want to content with the fact that they generously shared new things with me. Even if this new thing was not enough, this only upset Kagami, who had not yet gotten rid of the usual desire to show off. I had it too, but long months in a naughty child's body forced me to learn patience. I stayed calm and collected, that was the only way I could learn anything. Accustomed to tracking down animals, I completely forgot that the most terrible beast is man and was absolutely not ready to face his ingenuity. Still, sometimes it is bad to be an adult in a child's body, it has led to arrogance. Kagami was a genius, his illusion was frightening in its believability. I wasn't there long, he interrupted her immediately when I carelessly ran into a trap. Very stupid, I could have easily noticed it, I saw the irregularity, but did not pay attention until recently. If this had happened in reality, I would have already been dead, completely forgetting that in this world it is not necessary to pull the lines, it is enough to draw a small few in for the explosive seals to work, destroying the fool. It will be science for me for the future. I don't want to die so stupidly. I'll have to thank the Uchiha for rubbing my nose in my shortcomings. It remains to figure out how to do this, but not now. At the moment, I'm too small and I won't be able to pay the guy for knowledge that could save my life. So let's just remember for the future. Such services do not have a statute of limitations. Oh, so are you awake yet? I found myself lying in the shade, with a vest carefully placed under my head. Solid and smelling not of roses at all, but of some kind of rubbish from the category enemy of any Inuzuka. I am the mind in illusion. I shrug my shoulders with indifference, watching how the girl's face stretches out funny. Kagami! The sweet lady's roar almost demolished the sparring guys. What kind of illusions are you using on a child? Koharu, all four froze, and then the Uchiha made the mistake of reflexively stepping back from the enraged fury. I would like to thank Kagami-san, I rise and bow, fighting is not in my interests. Your illusion taught me a good lesson. I will remember him. You see, Koharu, Nawaki-kun doesn't mind at all. The Uchiha smiled, causing the surprised girl to wake up and immediately return to fury mode. Shut up, better shut up. The crunch of knuckles seems ominous even to me. I just had a rest and won't refuse a training fight. Turn to me and smile sweetly. Nawaki-kun, move a little further away. Hi! Despite the fact that she was addressing only me, three voices answered her at once, and then Danzo and Saru appeared nearby. Each grabbed him from his side and with a brave jump dragged him out of the clearing. Creepy. But I can calmly admire what is happening from the outside, appreciating the speed and abilities of the Jounin, while being protected. Interesting. Exciting. And 100 more epithets towards the fighting couple. I don't know how angry Koharu was, but during the fight she pulled herself together, becoming detached and calm. The movements of both were blurred and I wouldn't have understood half of it if it weren't for the commentators and fans sitting next to me on the branch. This quickly convinced me that helping me was just an excuse. In fact, Koharu had long wanted to stretch her bones, but the guys didn't want to train with her at full strength, and then Kami himself ordered. Doesn't matter. The main thing is that for the first time I saw the fight of such strong shinobi, and so close. I saw and realized how weak I was. I think this deserves special thanks. I'm too relaxed. He imagined himself to be superior to others. I forgot that if the children are not my rivals, this does not mean that only they will fight with me. It seems that this is exactly what Mito-sama wanted to explain to me, but she did not succeed, but one exhibition fight poked my nose. Well, better this way than posthumously. I hope my mentors will help me eliminate 2 major miscalculations. I'll just remember, and when the time comes, I will thank you. Chapter 9. Aspirations. Take a deep breath, half a step back, let the first attacker pass by, intercepting his hand and redirecting the movement, putting the second attacker in the way. An imperceptible touch of the thumb with the release of chakra. For some time the right hand is incapable of combat. Bend down, make a sweep, dropping the next one and immediately jump away from the fourth one. Weapons cannot be used, so you have to dodge and respond only as a last resort. From the outside it seems that I am simply dodging, avoiding battle. In fact, my fighting style is somewhat similar to Hyuga. Point effects, but not on Tenketsu. I don't see them, and the spread in location on the body can be a couple of centimeters. I hit the painful points. I already knew their location from a previous life. Specifics of education. Here I deepen my knowledge a little thanks to books for the Irenans, which I often borrowed from Tsunade. Such blows do not require great strength, only precision and fine control. The latter can be replaced by good chakra reserves. At 6, my reserves were impressive, due to constant training and heredity. The control from this, of course, was lame, but I managed to achieve good results by devoting enough time to training it. All the same, other entertainment was not available to me, partly due to age, and partly due to a frank reluctance to participate in other people's idiocy. This allowed me to become the best among my peers, but it wasn't enough for me. At one point, I felt that I was standing still. An unpleasant feeling that every athlete has experienced at least once. The problem is that I was not engaged in sports. Here the so-called one will not end with a thrown circle, but rather will be cut off by an arriving kunai. So I considered myself the smartest, and begged Tobirama to train with a large number of participants. It's a shame to even remember what it all turned into at the beginning. Now I can walk away from the attacks of 5 or 6 peers with my eyes closed, but then I was simply bombarded with bodies. The current battle can even be called beautiful. This is my exam, which will show how ready I am for the academy. More precisely, to the fact that Tobirama will teach me that technique that allows you to separate. Although, knowing him, I'll just receive a scroll with a description. I'll have to learn and get the hang of it myself. Well, at least that way. I'm ready. The main thing is that the academy will stop scaring you with wasted time. Maybe I'll even get over myself and find friends there. Otherwise, communication with one Shikaden influences me too much. No, it wasn't that sad. Tobirama clearly noticed my dissatisfaction and occasionally took him to his team's training sessions. Cheerful guys with whom I made a semblance of friendship, but it was too rare, because they went on missions, of which there were a lot. War never leaves ordinary people without consequences, so they were engaged in eliminating them. Well, according to them, but that's hardly all they did. They could have disappeared for a very long time, and with absolutely any composition. This especially often concerned the Uchiha. The young Jinjutsu master was needed in many areas, although the others were not sitting idle. All I could do was wait. I won't be in isolation forever, right? And Tobirama promised that if I pass this exam, he will transfer me to a group not based on age, but on skills. So I try. Only now it's not only me who is passing the exam, but also the 5 guys attacking me. Losing to me automatically means that they are not ready yet. This not only prevents them from acting, but makes them doubly dangerous. The price for losing is too high. My breathing is already starting to fail, and despite all the training, my endurance is still too low. However, my opponents have it even worse. In the end, I initially saved my energy by not responding to their attempts to offend me. I only grinned at the right moments, thereby only inflaming them more. This yielded results. If my breathing is just a little labored, then they are all breathing heavily. Another thing is that something like this made them stop and concentrate. Everyone has damage, not too serious. No fractures or bones knocked out of joint capsules. However, 3 of them have problems with the mobility of their arms. I was able to hit some in the legs, and I even prescribed one in the solar plexus. Actually, this became a signal for them. The guys came to their senses as soon as one of their group fell unconscious. The jokes are over, now they will attack with a cool head. Badly. I also failed to avoid damage, and it will only get worse. One can only regret that Goro-sensei limited the maneuver space strictly to this platform. I can't even jump into the forest surrounding us, it's forbidden by my mentor. Moreover, he specifically highlighted this for those who are especially smart and inventive. It's difficult to detect a slight surge of chakra at such a short distance. I even guessed it rather than felt it when I saw the rapidly increasing speed of one of the remaining ones. The boy turned off the weights. Nothing is holding him back anymore, unlike me. The right decision, but he still does not have enough experience to immediately adapt to the lighter body. The blow was delivered a little later than it should have been, but it was still strong. My cheekbone burned with pain, a neat turn almost turned into an ugly rotation. Only a miracle allowed me to get my bearings and raise my hand. Strike with the elbow on the shoulder, and not with the edge of the palm on the neck. Doesn't matter. The main thing is that the rotation has stopped, and the accelerated chakra relieves ringing in the ears and vision problems. It also helps to get rid of weights and escape from the attacks of others. Nothing slows them down anymore either. The battle again moved to a different plane. It becomes even more difficult to keep track of the others. The first person who dropped the load, almost incapacitated by me, quickly returns to the battle, personally setting his dislocated shoulder. Wonderful. A weak point has been found, and it doesn't matter that I myself suffered no less. As long as the chakra runs through the chakra channels, consciousness will remain clear. Although it's a pity that I'm not a doctor. It would make everything easier. Worth remembering. Perhaps I will ask Tsunade to show me a couple of simple techniques, but for this I need to end the fight, preferably with a victory. She will not be favorable to the loser. This is a very good reason for ridicule. It is difficult to avoid other people's attacks. They are becoming more and more coordinated, and more often you have to take blows to block. I'm a little faster, but not stronger. My body is completely covered with bruises. Adrenaline saves me, it dulls the pain and gives me a chance to win, but I can't hold on for long. Breathing is ragged not only for my opponents, but also for me. The concentration gets higher. I consciously cut off everything that could interfere. My perception narrows to this clearing and the children circling around me. Breathing becomes slower and more measured. Almost a state of trance, but it's easy to knock me out of it. Involuntarily I want to grin. I'm lucky that my hunter skills help here too. It is a pity that it has not yet been possible to return them in full. And not everything will work out. Still, there is no firearm here. He's a shinobi just not needed. Crouched to the ground, my own and other people's movements seem slow and viscous, but I'm still a little faster. The trampled earth hits the palms, but the chakra allows you to easily dig your fingers into it, crumbling the soil in your palms. Small pieces fly into the face of the first person they come across, allowing him to be blinded and throw himself under his feet, knocking him down and immediately soar upward, avoiding the attack of the next one, correcting its direction, allowing him to neutralize the fallen one. The hand itself reaches to the neck, straight to the carotid artery. I hope the blow wasn't too strong. I didn't want to kill him. The remaining two become more careful, their actions become more coordinated. They no longer interfere with each other, but what's worse is that I fell out of the trance state. Still, my body is still too weak and cannot support it for hours. Yes, and before I fell into it while waiting in ambush. I didn't have to actively move. This played a role. The pain begins to slowly seep into consciousness, and it is no longer possible to brush it off. A couple more minutes and they can take me ready, which means there's no point in waiting for someone else's attack. Deceptive maneuvers are also unlikely to work. We'll have to act a little differently. A normal frontal attack. No tricky tricks, I just choose the most crippled one and throw all the chakra available to me to speed up. I know that he will have time to react, so at the last moment I simply jump, pushing off his shoulder, throwing myself onto his partner. He is not ready for the blow, so I punch through the flimsy block with my foot without any problems, lowering it onto the top of his head. I don't hear a crunch, but he loses consciousness. I am left alone with the last enemy. We're both screwed, but I'm a little stronger. Normally I have no chance of winning. Just not with naked taijutsu. If it weren't for the recent landing on his shoulder, I would have lost, but his hand failed him at the last moment. The blow turned out to be weaker and I managed to carry out a counterattack. On my last legs, there's no other way to describe it, but I won. True, he himself did not remain on his feet for long. The body demanded its due for the careless attitude towards it. It's good that the Irenans are always looking after us. They quickly healed the most dangerous ones, leaving bruises and abrasions as a souvenir. They will have to go on their own. However, this could not diminish my joy, but I was prudent enough not to pester Tobirama in front of everyone. There is no need to create misunderstandings and find envious people out of nowhere. I decided to wait. The right decision, as time has shown. Well done, Nawaki! Tsunade ran into my half-dead carcass, barely remaining in an upright position. However, we should give her credit. She did not squeeze me, but disguised the hook as this action and carefully laid me on the ground. The playful squeezing was also performed professionally, checking for broken bones or sprains. I was even grateful to her. Lying on the ground was definitely more comfortable than trying to save face and not stagger. Now I'll treat you and you'll be as good as new. I have no doubt. I smile warmly at my sister, who immediately flushed. She is really great. Few people at her age have mastered Shosen at such a level. Although she still remains a careless girl, confident in her exclusivity. No, I don't argue. Thanks to training and strong genes, she is superior to most of her peers, like me, but this is not a reason to become overly arrogant. There can always be someone stronger and smarter than you. This is a lesson that was taught to me at the right time. Thank you, Tsuna. Contact me. Imagination involuntarily draws cat ears for my sister. She looks very sweet. However, the obsession quickly passes and they grab me by the ear, their eyes flashing menacingly. That doesn't mean you have to get hurt or not take care of yourself, okay? The quiet whisper sounds threatening, making me hastily nod so that my sweet, little sister is again in front of me. That's good. Tobirama-ji, I'm done. Help the others. The answer sounded indifferently, but the man himself still came up, looking carefully into my eyes. I don't know what he saw there. He lost interest too quickly and turned away. Nawaki, follow me. Hi. I get up, doing a couple of warm-up movements. Tsunade did a great job. She treated me efficiently, much better than the Irinans who usually watch over us. However, their goal is not to treat everything. The main thing is that they don't die and can continue training. Tobirama walks slowly enough that I can keep up with him without breaking into a run. I am grateful to him for this. Still, treatment is treatment, but accelerated regeneration also does not pass without a trace. Of course, as someone who has begun the path of a shinobi, I will be stronger than an ordinary child of the same age, but I also cannot bypass the simplest physical laws. For example, the building material for regeneration is taken from my body, as is the energy for this action. Irionin only makes external influences, speeding up the recovery rate, partially covering energy consumption, but the building material is still taken from the patient's body. This affects your well-being, and fatigue sets in like a concrete block. Fortunately, as soon as I walked away and found myself behind the trees, they took me by the shoulder and carried me to his office. The stomach already habitually jumped to the throat, but somehow without a spark. It seems that over time you get used to this technique. You have fulfilled the terms of our agreement. What I liked about Tobirama was that he always spoke directly. At least with me. Your chakra and control are enough to use the jutsu I created, but for the first 6 months you will use it under supervision. I forbid trying to learn or use it secretly. I understand. I take the scroll held out to me, fastened with an ordinary satin ribbon, carefully hiding my anticipation. Even with such restrictions as the albino imposed, the prospects opened up quite good. Who will supervise? Mito-san, she expressed concern about your progress in calligraphy. I can hardly keep a calm expression on my face. I want to swear. The one person I definitely don't want to cross paths with is her, but I understand that otherwise they will block my access to studying this technique. Not critical, but unpleasant. Moreover, I am really weak in calligraphy, which will affect seals in the future. Goro-sensei told me this in plain text. Another thing is that the hieroglyphs were difficult to write, especially after training, when your hands tremble and all your muscles ache from overexertion. I understand and admit. I bow my head dissatisfied. I want to say 100 words in my defense, but the remnants of sanity tell me to remain silent. The Uzumaki clan is famous for its masters of seals. Mito herself is a master, and she is an Uzumaki, no matter how many years have passed since joining the Senju clan. Many would give their souls for a simple opportunity to observe her, but I want to be picky when I hear about training. Adults don't act like that, and I'm an adult, so I'll behave accordingly. We will train willpower and learn the limits of endurance. Fine, a calm look. Ji-san, will your students be back soon? No one let me go, but they didn't forbid me to ask either. It would be a sin not to take advantage of the opportunity. What do you need it for? Calmness and some kind of indifference glides through someone else's voice and gaze. I would be deceived, but I've already studied Tobirama enough. If he has lost interest, the response will be to end the conversation immediately. I'm interested, I shrugged my shoulders. Kagami-san's illusions are very strong and he sets interesting tasks. I'm not going to tell you that Uchiha helps me improve my attentiveness. Why does Tobirama need to know how many times I have missed the thin web of fishing lines or miniature seals? How did you fall into traps set up by nature itself, when seemingly harmless bushes came to life, becoming living creatures, or poisonous gas suddenly burst out of a crevice? And that kind of mad cucumbers that shot poisonous spines? Masterpiece. Especially the transfer of all sensations. Kagami the Uchiha was not a savant, he just managed to learn everything the hard way, as I understood, and now he generously shared it with me. Hundreds of times letting you die in illusion, taking you out of it exactly at the moment when it could become irreversible. Illusions are dangerous. I don't like someone else's squint. The clan's defense has not been broken, he is not trying to find out secrets. I calmly hold his gaze, otherwise I don't remember how, after our first meeting with his squad, Mito-sama cast a spell on me. However, she also does this afterwards, clearly not trusting the Uchiha. And every time it becomes easier and easier for me to resist illusions. Not to mention, Kagami-san is not the only interesting person, all of your students are worthy of attention, but he is the only one who doesn't think I'm a weakling. I heard you go. Tsunade should have been released by now, a slow nod and a slight squint. It seems that with my words I just set up some good guys. However, conscience does not rebel because of this. I told the truth. The rest were burdened by my company, because I prevented them from training, and none of them wanted to sit and play shogi all the time. Perhaps if I were older and they got permission to teach me elemental techniques, they would be more interested, but as it is, they didn't even let me set traps. The maximum is fishing in the nearest river followed by cooking over a fire, which gets boring after a couple of times. Thank you, I bow and leave, hiding the valuable scroll that I have been hunching over for almost a year. My hands were itching to unfold it and go deeper into reading, but I remembered Tobirama's warnings, as well as my promise. And Tsunade, she just won't leave her alone, give her holidays, and here is such a reason. I'd prove that I have the right to leave the block and study at the academy. Next school year we will go there together, just in different classes. There is a reason for joy that I did not understand. So what if we go to the same school? Why are we happy? We won't meet each other during the day anyway, unless she drags me along for lunch. I already feel trouble and I can predict that no one will leave this so easily. It looks like you should prepare to defend your honor and prove that you are a man from an early age, but it's a pity. I wanted to sleep in the back rows, as Shikaden sometimes dreamed of, but it's unlikely to happen. Senju is still not Nara, and I am also the heir. Chapter 10. Academy. Hot, noisy, and uncomfortable. The scorching sun bakes the dark top of the head, and the tall geta, out of habit, rub the skin through thin white socks. Lots of people, no less smells. And the scorching sun, too. All this brings melancholy and a desire to hide away, but I obediently play my role, following Mito-sama and Tsunade. Both look proud, as if they were not leading me to the academy, but Hashirama himself. I don't understand women. They made way for us, looking with curiosity and even admiration. Once again I saw Mito-sama's transformation and was surprised. You need to be able to look so benevolent and majestic, not humiliating with your pride, but inspiring awe and admiration. Tsunade also tried to imitate her, but it turned out badly. I didn't even bother, preferring to remain silent and listen. So far nothing more has been required from me. It wouldn't be hot, but as they say, if you feel discomfort, it means you're alive. I will at least be happy about this. It took a long time to endure the rays heating the top of my head, much longer than usual, but we still got to the academy, where I was able to fully appreciate the parade of ambition. Cold Hyuga alternated with imperturbable Uchiha, pale Kurama huddled forlornly in a corner, silent Aburame pleased the eye with their compactness and exclusion zone around them, cheerful ones mixed with stick-thin Nara and Yamanaka. Perhaps the latter demonstrated the greatest unity and adherence to the ideas of Hashirama. Another thing is that it is one-sided. Mito-sama, will I be allowed to greet my friend Shikaden? I'll clarify quite calmly, it's difficult to spot a half-asleep friend, but I have a guideline at Kimichi. However, I separately notice Kagami-san, who with a barely noticeable smile listens to the chatter of some youngster from his clan. Is it only him you are going to greet? They caught my gaze and immediately frowned. Friends aren't too many to ignore, I retort. Mito-sama should already understand that I hate it when people tell me who to communicate with. And anyway, Tsunade has already started looking for acquaintances. Why am I worse? Because I'm going to first grade? So this is a controversial issue. Go, you have time before the opening speech starts, it was said quietly, with barely discernible notes of dissatisfaction. Thank you, I maintain a calm expression, nodding as majestically as possible. I leave, too, pathetically, hearing behind me the quiet whispering of the adults and children who remained with Mito-sama. And even though there are not many of us, this year only 5 representatives of the clan of different ages are going to the academy, including me and Tsunade. Even if you take those who remained homeschooled, the number is small. The clan was rapidly getting younger, and its numbers were falling. And it wouldn't worry me so much if the fuss around me hadn't already started. Hashirama's genes must not wither away. Only so far all the arguments have been smashed against the armor of Tobarama's indifference. This is who, even if he wanted to acquire a harem, carefully hid this weakness. I grin. I would be interested to see those who would try to hint at Tobarama about his duty to improve the demographic situation in one particular clan. Well, or several. This is for me. While I'm small and weak compared to an albino, I can rinse my brains, but Grandpa can answer. Strongly, efficiently, and in such a way that you don't want to raise any more questions. The real head of the clan, and also a single man, who was almost officially hunted by those who arrived from Yuzushio Kunoichi. No, everything was civilized, but the last time I saw him, there was a feeling that a pair of piranhas were circling around a juicy piece of meat. The latter became more and more numerous, and the unoccupied Kunoichi of Leaf also joined the hunt. The end of the war awakened the strongest instinct in women reproduction. Well, searching for the strongest male who will protect the offspring. I even felt a little sorry for him, exactly until the moment I heard an upset whisper that the air was still small, otherwise. I was an adult in the body of a child, but even in this situation, my ears began to turn red. The red-haired ladies clearly considered themselves safe behind the barriers, completely forgetting that I also have their blood, or maybe they did all this on purpose. Who knows? But from that moment on, I tried to avoid them, even though I understand mentally that I'm still too young for all the things they blabbed. What a disappointment. Ahem. More precisely, I don't like it when they force me into something and decide everything for me. I didn't expect to see you here, Nawaki-kun. As expected, Kagami-san noticed me as soon as I decided to parade past the Uchiha. Well, it would be more correct to say that, out of spite for Mito-sama, I first decided to say hello to this clan. I could, of course, at least lie to myself that I am doing this out of conviction, demonstrating the still strong friendship between Senju and Uchiha to everyone. But why? I just want to annoy this woman, but here I don't even have to try, just exchange bows with my Uchiha acquaintances and move on to where the Nara are standing. Tobiramaji decided that I sometimes need a rest. The academy is perfect for this, I say with a serious look, but judging by the way the laughs jumped in the guy's eyes, he appreciated the joke. You talk to Nara too much, a barely noticeable, but still warm smile. By the way, meet my cousin, Asami. I think you will study in the same class. It'll be nice. I smile kindly at the girl, who is diligently hiding behind Kagami-san, even if she is trying hard to pretend that she is interested in something in the sky. Yes. Absolutely clear, not a cloud, not a bird. The latter is especially pleasing, because you don't want to test your luck. You can't explain to the birds that they are not bombers, and the one below is not a strategic object. These people don't understand human language, but they always hit the target. Surely your cousin is a strong kunoichi. I will have someone to compete with, sly smile at least in throwing. Oh you! Just a moment ago, the girl, swelling with pride and embarrassment, glared at me angrily. Don't underestimate Asami-chan, I trained her personally. Kagami-san easily intercepted the indignant girl, ignoring the disapproving glances of the other Uchiha, but that one I was embarrassed. Oh, then she can definitely surprise me, now my smile is sincere. It looks like my stay at the academy won't be as boring as I thought, but now please forgive me. There's not much time left before the Hokage's speech, and I haven't seen all my friends yet. Of course, I'm glad you came, Nawaki-kun. Our bows are surprisingly synchronized, and our grins are similar. Well, yes, he understood perfectly well why I first approached them and noticed Mito-sama's glances, but he was pleased. In the end, he managed to accommodate his cousin by unobtrusively asking her to look after her, and I agreed. There's nowhere to go. I value my good relationship with Kagami-san enough to keep an eye on his cousin, of which, wait a minute, he must have quite a few. I even wondered why he singled out this particular one. Then it's worth asking around, but so that no one understands the real goals. It would be better for me to convince Koharu of childhood love than to give away the reason for my interest. Uchiha girls are interesting, but even Hashirama did not go as far as marrying one of them. This is an indicator that he would have had the courage and impudence to do such a trick. However, I still have everything ahead of me. Moreover, this would be a good way out in my situation, since definitely no other kunoichi will get through the Uchiha bride, and you can relieve tension in other places, when you have something to relieve, but so far they haven't even talked to me about sex education, like the standard one about the difference between the two sexes. So we put this thought aside, but don't forget to take a closer look at the ladies around you. The main thing to consider is that a harem is good, but not harmful to health. How much easier it would be if I weren't the heir, and so I won't be able to be close to a weak kunoichi, not to mention civilians, and the strong ones are too proud and can do a lot of nasty things if they consider themselves offended. There is only one conclusion from this: I must become stronger, and the sooner the better. Nawaki-kun, is everything okay? As soon as I approached Nara, Shikadona's mother rushed forward, completely ignoring all the clan's problems, which made me smile. This strict woman was surprisingly sincere, and having become accustomed to the peculiarities of the children of her husband's clan, she never lisped or fussed. A thorough woman, and taken from some small coastal clan friendly to the Uzumaki. Only I didn't understand then whether she was either captured or she left voluntarily, but in my case it doesn't matter. Yes, Miyuki-san, it's just hot. I can withstand careful inspection. You look wonderful. Thank you, Nawaki-kun. The woman's green eyes flashed provocatively. Here, Shikaden, take an example from your friend. Yes, it comes to me terribly indistinctly, but I don't see the guy. Not for long. A sleepy something appears from behind the backs of the clanmates. Nice to see you, Nawaki. Judging by your appearance, you would be glad to see more of the pillow. The answer is a heartbreaking yawn. Miyuki-san, you won't mind if we go into the shade for a while? Go ahead. Despite her dissatisfaction with her son, the woman did not interfere, simply waving her hand, which I took advantage of, slid like a snake into the depths of their formation. The most interesting thing is that just a moment ago, Shikaden, who was sleeping with his eyes open, rushed forward almost faster than me. Well, it's not surprising, his clothes were much more comfortable, and he could navigate perfectly among the adults who towered over us. I couldn't help but admire it. From the outside, these clans were pleasing in close-knit ranks. Up close it was easier. It turned out to be easy to maneuver among them if you are led by a child of one of the three clans. No, I felt their attention, but the adults often stood aside themselves, smoothly and gracefully avoiding the collision, allowing us to go to the very center where the children were located. In a small compact group, they chatted cheerfully, and the little Akimichi willingly shared their supplies of sandwiches and water. They could also lay blankets on the ground and it would be like a picnic. Well done, what more can I say? Maximum comfort and convenience. In this situation, even waiting for Tobarama's speech was not stressful, even if according to an unspoken tradition, everyone gathered on the platform in front of the academy an hour earlier. Meeting the children of other clans turned out to be not as scary as I thought before. They fed me, gave me something to drink, and even got to play a game of Who Noticed the Most Guards. And these are not only dispersed forces of the military police, but also poorly disguised ANBU, plus guards for individuals. In general, I parted with them extremely reluctantly, returning to Mito-sama, accompanied by Father Shikaden, who was not too happy about this. Well, this Uzumaki knows how to shake out the soul, and here is such a reason. The air was returned almost a minute before the start of the performance. I don't understand this. Tsunade didn't return at all and nothing. Who would even say a word? Moreover, she seriously thinks that I didn't see one of her girls following me? It's generally difficult for Uzumaki to blend in with the crowd, and it's not because of my sensory skills, which I haven't even begun to develop yet. Red tops are rare in Konoha. The Uzumaki clan is represented by only a dozen or two representatives, and they are certainly not children. Nara was saved by Tobarama, who appeared on the dais and began his speech. This caused Mito-sama to be distracted from polite pressure. It's still impolite to talk when the ruler is speaking, and then it was too late. The man simply disappeared, as if he had not used his clan's legendary technique of hiding in the shadows. In fact, I just quickly changed my location, without even using Shunshin, but I had no intention of giving it away. He himself wanted to rush away quickly. Fortunately, Tobarama was brief as always, giving parting words and disappearing. To be honest, I still don't understand why it was necessary to arrive an hour early in order to listen to a 5-minute speech, but that's what I think. Others clearly pursued their own goals. However, what can we say about others? I myself managed to exchange a few words with the Uchiha, spend time with Nara, say goodbye to a dozen familiar personalities from other clans from afar, wave to the noticed Koharu and Saratobi, but that was far from my goal. Is it any wonder if the others managed even more? No. As well as trying to find out what the conversations were about, and most importantly, what they would talk about while we were being sorted into classes. Gathering the entire study group, it all reminded me of the tests that I had to take separately from everyone else when I went to the city. In other words, after the Hokage's speech, the teachers jumped out onto the platform and said which group should go with them. It was lucky that everyone here was divided by age, so only those who entered were the first to leave. We were simply divided, those who can read and write, and those who need to be taught this. The older groups were divided according to skills, because everyone knew how to read and write. There was a lot of noise, but no one bothered with us. A light wave of CI and the bulk froze, stuttering in mid-sentence. A small part, mainly representatives of the clans, remained silent, gloomily contemplating the large mass of civilians or shinobi of the second or third generation. These people did not yet have a clan upbringing and were brainwashed with the theme, "Don't disgrace the honor of the clan." So they behaved according to their age. This made the division a little more difficult, but CI did an excellent job of what the screams couldn't provide. The children obediently divided into unequal groups. In mine, without surprise, I saw not only Shikaden, but also Asami. There were no more acquaintances. Well, not all of our peers from the clans enter the academy. Most pass exams with their age group, but are taught at home. The exception is the heirs and children of those close to the heads of the clans, but there are never many of them. As soon as we were sorted out, we were immediately taken to different offices. Meet. I was not too interested in this, not expecting anything from the children in advance. At their age, I definitely wouldn't have come out with anything original, so I wasn't surprised by statements like, "I want to be worthy of the clan/father's name," or, "I won't disgrace my father/mother/grandmother/grandfather." Although there were originals, they were few. It was Asami who stated that she wanted to become the first female head of the Uchiha clan. Well, Shikaden, who said that he dreams of becoming the Lord of the Clouds. Against this background, my statement that I wanted to surpass my grandfather looked frankly pale. Well, it's my own fault. I didn't want to strain my brains and come up with at least something original, and after that it was no longer necessary. The meeting ended, we were handed a schedule with a couple of textbooks and sent on our way. Apparently no one wanted to spend a long time fiddling with little things, but I liked their brevity. I was glad to leave the academy, not wanting to be around this noise anymore. And why, when I was at school, did I not notice how loud we were? Chapter 11. Riddles. The first days of school, they just happened. I don't know what goal was pursued by those who handed us over to a couple of chunin, but they weren't particularly diligent. Although I am too strict with them. For the first week, they tested our abilities and knowledge, trying to correlate what we had with the approved plans, and then they simply gave up. Not on us, fortunately, but on the curriculum. No, we were also given a standard package, but after that, in-depth study and practice began, a lot of practice. I would be very happy if it was about physical skills, but no. We were trained in memory and the ability to read quickly, given logic problems, occasionally interspersing all this with physical education lessons. I don't argue that many of the games were interesting, because in such a simple way they taught us how to solve real combat tasks and determine the leaders, but it was still stressful. I was too interested to sleep, but I hoped so. I won't lie. I almost liked it at the academy. One of the advantages was meeting and communicating with new people, practicing skills against unusual opponents. There were, however, no fewer disadvantages. For example, endless noise and a bunch of youngsters, plus Tsunade. No, I love my sister, but there was an unreal amount of her here. In less than a week, I managed to get acquainted with her entire class, especially filled with gratitude to Orochimaru, who never ratted me out, although he often noticed where I was running away from her. I can't say that I became friends with him, we didn't even exchange a few words, but I considered myself obligated to greet him and not interfere. The guy, like me, loved to read scrolls, but was even more antisocial than me. Nawaki! Nawaki! Nawaki-kun. The last one sounded close to my ear. I even felt hot breath and the slight smell of a fire. Asa-chan, let me sleep, okay? I lazily opened one eye to look around the room. In a couple of minutes, nothing changed, only one impudent Uchiha appeared in sight. For you, Asami-san! Correction, the Uchiha blushing with displeasure. Hi, Asa-chan, what did you want? I respond lazily. She won't do anything to me, except maybe swear a little, but that's not the point. The girl simply doesn't have enough communication, and my secret patronage protects me from problems. The most interesting thing is that I didn't even have to fight much, just a couple of training sparrings during local physical education to win a few minutes, and that's all. The first guy in the village. However, I didn't lose at all, maybe that played a role. Kagami-san asked to convey his consent, a dissatisfied look, red cheeks. By the way, what did my cousin agree to? Asa-chan, your blush suits you very well. You're even starting to look younger. I smile sweetly, closing my eyes and getting ready. Of course, I'm still a zero sensor, but that's not necessary here. I remember the position of the objects perfectly, and it's not difficult to predict the girl's reaction to her words. The main thing is to lean back in your chair in time to dodge the folded notebook. Asa-chan, by the way, I gave you a compliment. You called me old and that's a compliment? The Uchiha, bursting with anger, does not cause fear, rather a ton of tenderness. It's strange, but I've always been told that women like it when people tell them they look younger. I make a thoughtful face. I will know that this does not apply to you, Mi-chan. My fists clearly clench, my notebook creaks dangerously, and I carefully keep an innocent expression on my face. Stop misrepresenting my name, Baka. It's beyond my strength to resist smiling, although I understand that I'm behaving like a child, provoking the Uchiha. However, this is just an innocent prank, an attempt to show everyone that she is under my protection. Quite successful, by the way. At least, if you know where to look, you can see that as soon as everyone noticed my interest, she easily took the leading position among the girls. However, she would have occupied it anyway, but with much more blood. Still, among those who arrived there were a couple of Haim. And if Akimichi could not be considered, then Kurama certainly would not have given up so easily, and now he almost doesn't even do nasty things on the sly. You still haven't answered her question. Shukaden takes me away from contemplating someone else's back. Oh, so you're awake? I look sarcastically at the guy who still hasn't raised his head. Again you avoid answering, lazy yawn. Yes, there is no secret here, I shrug, resting my head in my hands. The Uchiha keep the best weapon stores, but only family friends are allowed to see the highest quality samples, and I managed to get permission from Tobirama-ji to learn how to wield a blade. True, I haven't decided which one yet. There was no sleep in the opened eyes. Nara scanned me thoughtfully and closed them again. Not early? Sooner, of course. They won't trust me with anything serious. I nod in agreement. But you can check your predisposition. You just have to come to an agreement yourself. These matters do not tolerate intermediaries. How problematic. Someone else's voice sounds sadly, but good luck. Thank you, friend, I snort, diligently trying to ignore the noise of the gradually filling class. I have at least 10 more minutes before the start of the lesson. It's worth spending them usefully, otherwise later I'll be like a boiled vegetable. However, I'm still not much better. I should reconsider my daily routine and stop staying up until midnight on interesting scrolls. They won't run away from me, but they can reduce the effectiveness of their classes. This is already noticeable and should not be taken to extremes. After all, I don't want to be banned from training something useful. Arranging with Kagami to visit their shop and select suitable weapons turned out to be half the battle. It all boiled down to the fact that no one would let me go to the gunsmith's paradise alone. At least one of my older relatives had to be present with me. According to Mito, she is herself, but then I stood to death. If this woman comes with me, I will only get a weapon after a couple of years, if at all, otherwise she might notice something suspicious? No, I recognize that paranoia is a useful thing, but there are times when it is worth holding on to it, so I diligently drove wedges against Tobirama. This was the optimal candidate that would suit everyone. Besides, he issued the permit? Let him take the rap. And so it happened. The Uchihos weren't too stubborn before when they said that there should be an accompanying person. More controversy arose over the identity of the escort. Everyone knew very well Mito-sama's biased attitude towards their clan. Here she definitely surpassed even Tobirama. This is an indicator. Another thing is that I didn't even know why they were raising a panic, as if I was going to the North Pole. You might think that no one understood that no one would introduce me to the real suppliers, much less the masters who created their masterpieces. Most likely, they will simply take you to one of the secret warehouses, assigning someone knowledgeable, but far from a genius. As soon as the formalities were settled, I began to look forward to going into the dream of a bladed weapon lover. Not in vain. The Uchiha really did not disappoint, dragging me to a warehouse full of top-quality weapons. However, it was difficult for them to surprise me. my clan also had a lot of this, even though I was rarely allowed to see them. Training for beginners, to whom, despite all my efforts, I still belonged, was carried out using cheaper analogs. However, Tobirama kept his promise. My classes became more difficult, and they tried to give me older opponents. The only thing holding back my progress was Mito-sama's opinion that learning elemental techniques was prohibited before I turned 7. Considering that I also didn't show any special predisposition to seals, losing to guys older than me was a common occurrence. My pride suffered, my pain threshold increased. I began to look for ways to win without techniques, studying the weak points of any jutsu. Considering that the speed of creating elemental techniques was poor for many, I still had a chance of winning. The main thing was to implement them, but difficulties arose here. Children older than 7 easily matched my speed, if not faster. Unfortunately, no one was able to bypass the body limiter. The older you are, the easier it is to control chakra, just more experience and practice. Not to mention the fact that some were already taken on missions, mostly the simplest ones, like destroying the animals that had bred at training ground number 44. Well, or to collect ingredients there. I myself have already been taken to look for grass along the edge, and I could not help but be impressed. The forest was overwhelming. Only a person completely cut off from the world could decide that he was ordinary. As they explained to me, I feel natural chakra, whose concentration in this place is much higher even in comparison with our quarter. Well, most importantly, she is very hostile. The forest located at the training ground seemed to be saying, "Don't pry up." So the first walks were a real nightmare, a test of nerves. Creepy. But immediately there is an incentive for training. I am distracted from my memories by the muffled voice of Kagami, who stops near a wall that is no different from the others. A couple of quick seals, a slight tremor of the ground, and a passage down appears. Ask. I skeptically look at the dark descent and the complete absence of torches and any other lighting. Interesting surroundings. Examination? What's the matter, Nawaki? Tobirama, frozen behind his back, literally crushes him with his presence, although before this he was not felt at all. Nothing, I shrugged my shoulders. They definitely won't kill me, just not with such a composition, but everything else can be survived. It doesn't take long to go down. The light pouring from the back helps prevent you from stumbling. Weak, but if you apply a little chakra to the eyes, it is quite sufficient. Fortunately, Kagami had enough compassion to warn us that behind the door waiting for us at the end, the lighting was normal and there were no serious consequences, although our eyes still had to get used to the bright light for a couple of moments. What an interesting guy. I look in bewilderment at the plump woman who is holding a long cigarette holder in her hands. This is the only bright detail, the rest of the image blurs. A slightly sweet smell hangs around the room, but the hood is very good and the smoke dissipates quickly. At first glance, nothing unusual, but reflexes work faster than the brain. I cover my nose with my sleeve and try to jump away, bumping into Tobirama, who remains behind me. And how should we understand this? A firm palm supported me, preventing me from flying away and plowing my nose into the ground. Tobacco does not contain hallucinogen and other unpleasant substances. You can check Senju. She holds out a half-smoked cigar with a majestic movement. You would have noticed the effect on the chakra immediately. I can feel right into my skin how suspiciously Tobirama is looking at this woman. However, he did not refuse to check. True, my limited knowledge did not allow me to understand much, only to notice a couple of seals and several portable devices that did not evoke any associations in my memory. However, judging by what happened next, he was convinced that smoke and impurities in the air in general were not dangerous. Well, if the respected Senju is convinced of my words, let's move on to what we gathered for. She didn't light a new cigar, she simply removed the mouthpiece and came up to me. Something like a tailor's meter appeared in her hands, with which she deftly began to measure my arms and height, simultaneously figuring out my leading hand, which I, in fact, did not have. More precisely, I was a retrained left-hander in a past life, but here it seems I was right-handed. In theory. For I didn't care which hand I used, I own them equally, but the irritating uncertainty about where is right and where is left, which I suffered in a past life, disappeared. And it's convenient. No need to think about it, just do it with the hand that is more comfortable. Interesting. I was right though, you are a very interesting young man, Nawaki Senju. A lot can be expected of you if you don't stop early. This is bad? I raised an eyebrow questioningly. Time will tell, but a Shinigami is never wrong, came the mysterious answer. I've even begun to get used to her appearance. She no longer looked faceless, her habits reminiscent of a cat. Very curious and seeing much more than I would like. At the very least, the mention of the Shinigami was hardly casual. Tobirama's revealing cough breaks me out of my semblance of trance. This lady, without even using chakra, managed to influence me. Don't worry so much, cats have taken a liking to your kitten, and they smell bad people. Only now I notice that a fluffy miracle is rubbing against my feet. And in general, it's as if the veil is being pulled from my eyes and I can admire the cats lounging everywhere. At first glance, I count at least 24. The majority are sleeping, some are lazily stretching. One of the most arrogant and small ones actually made a rookery for herself on Kagami-san's head. Fine, a loud clap of your hands distracts you from looking at suddenly discovered living creatures. I know what will suit you, kitten. I'm not a kitten. I snap back more out of a sense of contradiction than out of necessity. I feel that she does not put anything bad into her address. You are still too young to be called a seasoned cat, I see mockery in the woman's eyes. It doesn't matter, kitten, you'll understand later. Now I can say that katanas will not suit you, and it's not a matter of height, they will interfere with making seals. She carefully took my hand and ran it over my fingers. You have long and flexible fingers. It would be criminal not to take advantage of such an advantage. A katana will only ruin everything, make them rude and ossified. The palm is free. If they gave me time, I created a weapon especially for you. It would be interesting. But now, yes, this will suit you. A couple of cats are driven from a rack on which a simple ceiling seal is visible. I already understand enough about them to roughly determine the capacity and level of the person who cut it. This is clearly not the work of Uzumaki. It is too simple and holds no more than a chest of 10 to 15 liters. Not by weight. Volume. Now I'll need a little time to adjust. A small weapons chest is placed in front of me, just as I thought. The capacity is small, and when the lid is opened, I am only convinced of this. There are bracers and gloves there that are very similar to those worn by ENBU. Metal on top, soft leather underneath. A mechanism for releasing small secret blades is hidden inside. The association with assassin weapons comes to mind, but I'm a little disappointed. I had been told so much about the Uchiha gunsmiths that I expected something more impressive. Don't worry, kitten, they're not finished. The strange woman easily caught the change in my mood. The old Uzumaki will refine them herself and make them even better. I can only give a basis, suggested direction. You will choose. I see, I'm grateful. I just nod. The conversation with the next riddles bothered me a little, but she really gave some good clues. Perhaps I was hasty. Still, I'm not a samurai, they won't teach me how to swing a katana. The role of shinobi invisible fixes. It is easier to make them with just such a blade, although this does not mean that I will not return to this issue in the future. Well, now it's time to wrap things up. We were told this in plain text. One question: who is this lady? When I asked to choose a weapon, no one mentioned this, and I didn't see it in Konoha, as well as during my visits to the Uchiha clan. And even if this is not an indicator, I know many clan members, and I would even notice such a colorful lady. However, I didn't know her, but Tobirama didn't look surprised, and Kagami emphasized her high status with his behavior. Mystery. The next one. But is there any point in solving it as well?